Chechnya, a small state that holds a flood of history filled with gore and torture. In a desperate attempt to sever the ties they have with Russia, Chechnya has become plagued by war and terrorism. Journey into Chechnya's history, the history of a state enveloped by a dark shadow of terror.
Underneath Chechnya flows a pipeline of oil, a massive pipeline that Russia doesn't want to lose. Think of Chechnya as a spoiled child. Chechnya wants independence from its mother, Russia. Russia, not wanting to give up the oil, refuses. Chechnya then rebels against Russia and lashes out. This leads to two gruesome wars. At first, Chechnya succeeds in gaining independence, but Russia quickly regains control over Chechnya once more. Even though Chechnya had virtually no economy after breaking away, it still refused to be governed by Russia. This led to terrorist attacks, such as holding a school hostage for 3 days. Although the Second War ended in Chechen defeat, Chechnya continued drawing on the walls in order to get at Russia, and the crayons continue to scuff up those walls even today. Became the president of Chechnya shortly after the death of Lindsey, the former president. Yudayev was also the official that declared Chechnya free from the Soviet Union. Aslan Maskhadov took part in the Third Battle for Grozny, leading surprise attacks in the city. Maskhadov represented Chechnya during the drafting and signing of the Cossack Report. Soon after, Maskhadov was made president over Chechnya, but he died in 2005. His commander, Shamil Basayev, alongside Maskhadov, led the battle for Grozny, but beforehand he took part in the bombing during the Borovich hospital crisis. Basayev staged raids in both neighboring Dagestan and Russia until he was killed in 2006. Akhmat Kadyrov officially sided with the separatists for the First War, but switched sides for the Second War. The main people on the side of the Russians were Boris Yeltsin and Alexander Levin. Boris Yeltsin, president of Russia, ruled Russia during the First Chechen conflict. He died in 2007, leaving Vladimir Putin to fill his shoes. Yeltsin's national security advisor, Alexander Levin, represented Russia for the drafting and signing of the Cossack Report. Although the main conflict was between the Chechens and the Russians, the English people did get involved to an extent. Ruslan Alshev was president of the English people during this time.
In the 13th century, the Chechens displayed their stubbornness and strength by resisting the invasion of the Mongol hordes. Chechnya was also one of the more active opponents against the Russian Caucasus conquest, which occurred between 1763 and 1864. The Chechens fought a harsh 4-decade rebellion against the conquest. However, in 1859, the Russians captured the region. After Soviet rule was established in the region, Chechnya was included in the Mountain People's Republic in 1921. A republic that included the regions of what is now Chechnya, Ingushetia, Dagestan, and North Ossetia-Alania. However, after the republic fell, the Chechens and Ingush bonded together to form the Chechen-Ingush Republic in 1936. When World War II began, the Chechen-Ingush people immediately joined the sides of the Nazis. During the siege of Stalingrad, Chechnya's capital city, Grozny, was turned into a smoking pile of ruins. Joseph Stalin, still seeing the Chechen people as a threat, deported the entire population of Chechnya to Siberia in 1944. Eventually, in 1956, after a quarter of the population had died, the Chechens were allowed to go back to Chechnya. Since then, multiple wars have been waged against Russia and neighboring Dagestan in what is labeled as a separatist act. A state is defined as being a nation or territory considered as an organized political community under one government and has sovereignty. Under these conditions, Chechnya is not a state. Although it may be able to control some internal affairs, major decisions such as trade and defense are still controlled by the Russian Federation. Chechnya had already been inhabited by the Chechen people when Russia arrived in the 1800s. So, Russia taking over Chechnya wasn't a colonialist act, but an imperialist one that still continues on today. Chechen people have never enjoyed being under Russian rule, so many separatist acts have been made for Chechnya's independence. However, Russia is reluctant to give up Chechnya due to the oil it provides, and thus began the start of multiple terrorist attacks and 2 wars. Chechnya can be classified as a compact state due to its small size, 17,000 kilometers, and having a relative equal distance along all sides. Since the majority of the population consists of Chechens, Chechnya would also be classified as a nation-state, but this term does not apply to Chechnya given that it is currently under Russian rule. Since it is surrounded by the countries Georgia, Dagestan, Ingushetia, and Stavropol Krai, Chechnya is considered landlocked.